Good evening and welcome. I would like to open the public portion of the March 25th, 2026 Richfield Park Board of Education meeting. The time is now 7:40 p.m. Let's begin with a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Hayes, thank you in advance for your service to our district in the past and now. I'm not sure if I ever publicly expressed my gratitude to you for your service to this district during what was arguably one of the most difficult periods. Perhaps it was because I was new to the board and it took me years to realize the work you did for us and the circumstances under which you did that work. In either case, thank you and welcome back. May I please ask you to read the Open Public Meetings Act?
Thank you very much, Dr. Martinez. It's great to be back. I'm honored to be back. Thank you. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Ridgefield Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Bergen Record, Star Ledger, Municipal Building, Board of Education offices, and district website. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted throughout the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 5 minutes. The public will be able to both speak and be seen by the board when participating virtually, telephonically, via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue hand icon at the bottom of their Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during public participation will need to hit *9 on their telephone to raise their hand. The Business Administrator Board Secretary will then unmute individuals one at a time to speak in the order that their hand was raised.
Thank you, ma'am. Please have a roll call.
Trustee Coloma.
Here.
Trustee Kraft. Trustee Feitros.
Here. Welcome back, Dr. Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Feitros. Trustee McNeil. Trustee Malul.
Here.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Here.
Trustee Schmidt.
Here.
Trustee Velez.
Here.
Trustee Orth.
Here.
President Martinez.
Here, and we have a quorum. Trustee Schmidt, can you please move the February 2026 executive and full board meeting minutes?
So I'll make a motion to move 301 February 2026 meeting minutes.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Coloma.
Yes.
Trustee Feitros. Trustee Feitros.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Trustee Malul.
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
Trustee Velez.
Yes.
Trustee Orth.
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, and the minutes pass. The board received no correspondence from the public last month, so we'll move directly into subcommittee reports. Buildings and Grounds, Trustee Velez, please.
Thank you, President Martinez. Buildings and Grounds met on March 16, 2026. In attendance were Dr. Vespignani, Ms. Triglia, Mr. Egu, myself, Ms. Orth, and Ms. Schmidt. Our agenda items are as following. Our preliminary budget presentation summary was given by Dr. Vespignani. He shared the budget that is being still in progress, but is following the usual format, and it is expected to be finalized before the March 25th, 2026 board meeting. Some key points include a $500,000 decrease in state aid due to declining enrollment, making the first decrease in 5 years. Expansion of the pre-K program.
I'm sorry, Ms. Velez. That part you don't have to report. That's the part that's going to be in the presentation.
Okay.
We don't want to steal
Or
thunder.
the
Steal the thunder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I guess my presentation is done.
Excellent presentation, Ms. Velez. Finance and Insurance, Trustee.
Real quick, Finance and Insurance met on March 16th at 6 p.m. In attendance were Dr. Vespignani, Ms. Triglia, Mr. Bisick, Mr. Matish, Ms. McNeil, Dr. Martinez, Ms. Rodriguez, and myself. Most of the finance meeting was devoted to the superintendent's preliminary budget presentation, which is going to be shared with us shortly, along with a thorough discussion of the budget process and the administration recommendations. This teacher's contract negotiation costs will be included in the budget, but held separately until negotiations are finalized. This is my report.
Thank you. Excellent reports. Faculty and programs, Trustee Rodriguez.
The F&P Personnel Committee met on March 17, 2026 at 5 p.m. Superintendent Dr. Vespignani, President Dr. Martinez, Trustee Kraft, Coloma, and I were in attendance. Most of the meeting was devoted to the superintendent's preliminary budget presentation, along with discussion of the budget process and the administration recommendations. A few items on this evening's agenda were reviewed in addition to the revised 2025-2026 district calendar, which includes moving one day from spring break to April 10th. The committee was informed that the proposed 2026-2027 calendar is in good shape with no major changes and has been shared for administrative feedback. The meeting adjourned at 6 p.m. and the next meeting is scheduled for April 21st, 2026.
Thank you. Very nice. We did not have a policy committee meeting this month, and we did not have negotiations this past month. So we'll now move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Martinez. I was just pulling up the Zoom for my presentation. I wanted to first also welcome back Dr. Hayes. In a short amount of time, his expertise and calm demeanor we've already reaping the benefits of that. So welcome aboard. It's great to have you as part of the team.
So much, Dr. B.
You're welcome. I respectfully submit the HIB report that was presented to the board in executive session. Also, friendly reminder to our families of our youngest learners, pre-K and K registration remain open. Also be sure to register as part of our process. As you may recall from a previous board meeting, we've streamlined some of that to try to make it a little bit smoother for our families. Wanted to note a few items that are on agenda. First, I'm pleased to be recommending to the board a full-time business administrator. After a very thorough, objective process that included screener round, panel round, performance task, some time with the finance committee chair. I'm pleased to be making the recommendation. The position, the start date would be effective July 1st. As also on the agenda, we have Dr. Hayes scheduled through June 30th. So we look forward to welcoming pending the board's approval. But very, very pleased to be recommending this individual. I also wanted to recognize the Bergen County Unsung Hero. We have Miana Almonte, who has received the recognition and who had attended the recognition as part of the process. Unfortunately, Miana was not available to join us this evening due to other obligations, but we did want to just mention that we have a nice resolution as part of this agenda to recognize her efforts as the Bergen County Unsung Hero. As noted from Trustee Rodriguez in regard to the Faculty Program and Personnel Committee, on this agenda, we do have the revised 25-26 district calendar. As the community knows, and I've sent this out to both staff and the community, unfortunately, we had to utilize 3 total emergency days due to the inclement weather, whereas in the calendar we had built in 2. So as a result, we need to have the board approve the revised agenda this evening, which unfortunately we would need to pull back 1 day from spring break. So on Friday, April 10th, school will now be in session. And then also recommending the 26-27 district calendar for next year. This was done in collaboration with the Little Ferry superintendent. Our administration has reviewed it internally. We did share this with the RPEA leadership as well, brief conversation around that. It remains largely the same schedule as this year, no significant changes, but we're pleased to be recommending that this evening. I wanted to turn to welcome our student reps. This evening we have four, and generally they provide us with a bit of an update on some school news. But I thought, remaining consistent with what we did last year, to provide them with an opportunity to kind of just highlight what their experience has been, here at the junior senior high school. So we welcome our student reps. Great to be with you. Just to note, the microphone, you just have to press it down once and the red light would come on. So we'll turn it over to you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Zaid Awauda. I am the 2026 class vice president.
Good evening. It's nice to be here with you guys tonight. My name is Katie Higgins, and I'm the senior class secretary.
Good evening. My name is Sienna Sangüesa, and I'm the junior class vice president.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shea Johnson, and I'm the junior class secretary.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, administration, and community members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
We are here to present several important initiatives that are enhancing our school's experience and supporting student success in meaningful ways. Each of these improvements, ranging from facility upgrades to academic and extracurricular programs, has had a direct and positive impact on our student body.
To clearly show this impact, we have organized our presentation using a consistent format. For each initiative, we will briefly describe what it is and then explain its benefits across multiple areas of student development. These areas include social development, emotional well-being, mental and cognitive growth, physical health and wellness, academic achievement, behavioral outcomes, school safety and security, student engagement and motivation, environmental comfort and learning conditions, equity and accessibility, technological literacy, life skills development, and college and career readiness.
By using this structure, we aim to give a complete picture of how each initiative supports not just one aspect of student life, but the whole student experience.
Throughout the presentation, different students from our student government will introduce each topic and share how these improvements have made a real difference in our daily lives, both inside and outside the classroom. We appreciate your time and we are excited to share our perspectives with you today.
Facility and environment upgrades. Scarlett Strong Training Center. The Scarlett Strong Training Center is more than a gym. It is a cornerstone for holistic student development. By fostering inclusivity between athletes and non-athletes, the center builds a unified school culture while providing a vital outlet for stress and anxiety. Beyond the physical benefits of lifelong wellness, the structured environment reinforces the discipline, goal setting, and resilience necessary for peak academic performance and classroom readiness. This is a commitment to equity, ensuring every student, regardless of sports or status, has the tools to build a stronger body and a more focused mind.
EverAlert message boards. The EverAlert system represents a significant leap forward in our school safety infrastructure and communication climate. By providing real-time emergency alerts and consistent messaging, we directly reduce student anxiety and preserve precious instructional time. Furthermore, these boards serve as canvases for student-created content, boosting school pride and technological literacy. This investment ensures an informed, secure, and modern environment where students can remain focused on learning with minimal disruption.
HVAC upgrades, gym and cafeteria. Regulating the climate in our highest traffic areas is a fundamental necessity for student engagement and health. By installing modern heating and air conditioning in the gym and cafeteria, we eliminate environmental distractions that lead to irritability and fatigue. These upgrades ensure that all students, regardless of the season, have access to comfortable, equitable space that supports physical activity, social interaction, and the mental recharge required to maintain concentration throughout the school day.
Cafeteria upgrades, ceiling lighting, and HVAC. The proposed cafeteria renovations aim to transform a high-density utility space into a modern, respectful environment that boosts student morale. Improved lighting and air quality do more than just enhance the aesthetic. They create a healthier dining experience that encourages positive peer interaction. By investing in this heart of the school, we provide students with a dignified space to recharge, fostering a sense of pride in their campus and a stronger overall school climate.
LED lighting in the auditorium. Upgrading to LED lighting in the auditorium elevates the quality of every assembly, performance, and instructional event held on our stage. These enhancements go beyond energy efficiency. They reduce eye strain for our students and provide a professional-grade atmosphere that builds confidence in our performers. By integrating modern production technology, we not only spark interest in the arts, but also provide a high caliber venue that reflects the excellence and pride of our entire school community.
We now move on to academic and career pathways, starting first with early college and dual enrollment. Our early college dual enrollment programs provide a rigorous bridge to post-secondary success, allowing students to tackle college-level coursework while still in a supportive high school environment. This initiative is a powerful driver of equity, expanding access to higher education and reducing future financial burdens for our families. By fostering independence and critical thinking, we are ensuring our students graduate with not just a diploma, but with confidence and the credits necessary to thrive in the modern economy.
CTE Culinary and CHIRP programs. The CTE Culinary and CHIRP programs offer essential hands-on pathways that connect academic concepts to real-world careers. These programs are vital for students who thrive in project-based environments, building their confidence through tangible achievements in teamwork and problem solving. By teaching industry-relevant skills and practical life responsibilities, we are preparing a diverse group of learners for immediate career entry and lifelong self-sufficiency.
New STEM program sequence. The new STEM program sequence is designed to prepare our students for the high-demand, tech-driven careers of tomorrow. Through an emphasis on analytical thinking and collaborative innovation, this curriculum challenges students to tackle complex, real-world problems. This sequence does more than just teach science and math. It cultivates the adaptability, creativity, and technological literacy required for our graduates to become leaders in a rapidly evolving global landscape.
In closing, the projects and programs we have discussed today, from the Scarlet Strong Training Center to our advanced STEM and CTE sequences, are not merely individual line items. Together, they represent a holistic community to the whole student.
By modernizing our physical environment with HVAC, LED lighting, and ever alert systems, we are removing the barriers of discomfort and anxiety that hinder learning. By expanding our early college and vocational pathways, we are ensuring that every student, regardless of their post-graduational plans, leaves our doors with a competitive edge and a clear sense of purpose.
Our goal is to create a school environment that is safe, equitable, and inspiring. These investments in our infrastructure and our curriculum are ultimately investments in our students' resilience, their health, and their future success. We are building a culture where excellence is accessible to all, and we thank the board for its continued support in making this vision a reality.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that report. It is really great to hear the impact that, facilities and some of the academic and extracurricular programs are having on you as students. And, all the decisions that I make are, as superintendent, are with the students in mind, with your best interests. And I speak often with my administration about improving not just student achievement, but the student experience. And tonight I'll be presenting the preliminary budget presentation. All of these items are funded directly through our budget. So it's great to hear that some of the work that we've been doing in these past few years are having such a meaningful impact, both academically, social, and emotionally. So I know my presentation is going to be quite long, and there will undoubtedly be some questions. I know two of you are juniors and have NJGPA testing, so I'd like to excuse you at this time so you can get some good rest this evening. And again, we appreciate you coming out and sharing a little bit about your current experiences. Thanks so much.
Great job, guys. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
I don't know. He's trying to figure it out the way the settings are. You can't.
Chris, are we good?
We're-
Here?
Students, before you leave, what club do you have to join to get those wonderful jackets?
Student government.
Student government? Okay. Thank you. Very nice.
Water's not free.
All right, so I am pleased to present the preliminary budget presentation for the 26-27 school year. Again, I wanted to thank a few folks who have had a heavy hand in this, primarily Dr. Hayes, who came in at a time when there was a just very short amount of time to try to get this across the finish line. So he's been working day and night in collaboration with our assistant superintendent, Carmela Triglia, along with our financial analyst, John Matisich. All three of them have just been doing a really great job in pulling this together. We've had many internal meetings along with Ms. Gonzalez, our Director of Special Services, Ms. Costello, our Director of Early Childhood Education, and Mr. Agu, our Operations Manager, all of whom contributed to the betterment of this presentation and their lens with their direct oversight of their respective departments and programs. In addition to that, this presentation was recently presented to the full administrative team for their insight and also knowledge of the current status of the district. And as noted from the committee reports, this was also shared with the committee initially last week during our committee rounds, and then we held additional small group non-quorum meetings with board members who had some follow-up questions because the presentation did change slightly since the committee round. So having said that, on this initial slide here, just some notable changes in comparison to the presentation from last year. First, we welcome Ms. Janet Coloma as trustee listed on the left. And then naturally on the right, we welcome again Dr. Marquez as interim business administrator, and notably one name is missing. That would be Mr. Tom Egan, who was on the slide from last year. But as everyone is aware, we've moved out of state fiscal monitorship, and Mr. Egan's no longer with the district in that capacity. So staying consistent with last year, these goals are similar but somewhat massaged as we advance our mission and vision. So goal 1 is to advance student performance and experience through transparent, accountable, and strategic district spending. As I had indicated with our student reps, everything that we're doing here is for them in terms of advancing their performance and their experience within our schools. And in goal 2, it's related to our facilities, so to sustain effective teaching and learning environments through responsible stewardship of facilities and operational resources. So I wanted to begin with a bit of the status in terms of the recent history of responsible and efficient budgeting. In the 23-24 school year, this was my first year here as superintendent. I did not create this budget with the board. It was already established, but this is the first budget that I operated and implemented with my administration. In 23-24 school year, it's important to note that the district received an increase of approximately $1.9 million in state aid from the previous year as part of that budget. So just keep that number in mind as we progress through this slide. We ended that year with a $5.6 million surplus, which was in addition to the 2% cap that has to be carried over from statute. So we ended with an additional surplus of $5.6 million, and all that surplus was transferred into what we refer to as capital and maintenance reserve accounts, and you see the breakdown on this slide. So then the next school year, this budget was within my oversight that we established for 24-25. And in this year, we received an increase of approximately $1.5 million in state aid from the previous year as part of this budget. So again, a slight decrease, but nonetheless a significant amount of state aid. So over the course of 2 years, close to $3.5 million in terms of state aid was received by the district. In that year, we ended with an approximate $6.1 million surplus. In June 2025, this past June, the district, the administration had recommended to the board a specific resolution that the board had approved, and transfers again went into capital at $4 million, maintenance at $600,000, tuition reserve at $250,000. That left a surplus of just under $1.4 million, which becomes what we refer to as an assigned fund balance that is now available in the 26-27 budget. More on that in some later slides. So bring it to the current school year, where again the district received an increase in state aid, but you see that is a significantly less increase, approximately half from the previous year, in the amount of $700,982. We have been working with our auditor to project where we will end at the end of this school year, and we see a sign that surplus is expected, but declining in the amount of $3.8 million, which again is a first indication of a narrowing trend. So before I move on to the next slide, just a quick recap. We have decreasing state aid numbers, and we have surplus, but a trend in decreasing surplus. So as I'd indicated, a lot of this surplus has been pushed into capital, and it's not without reason. districts have a requirement of a long-range facility plan, which is done in collaboration with the architect of record. In this case, we have DeCaren Rubino. And we still have several capital projects designated within that plan to the tune of approximately 24.8 million. So some of those highest cost capital projects that would be funded with direct cash from capital rather than have to go out for bond or anything else, they could be funded through this reserve account. We have lighting upgrades. We heard from our students, the change in lighting in the cafeteria and the auditorium and even here in the library media center, what a difference that makes. But we have ongoing lighting upgrades throughout the district. We then have designated science lab modernization here at the junior senior high school. The auditorium is still in need of renovations. The locker room here at the junior senior high school is also needed renovation. We then have the vinyl asbestos tile abatement and flooring, which is ongoing. Fire alarm upgrades, ADA compliance upgrades. So some of this is kind of leans towards wish list, although if you were to look at the locker room or if you've been in the auditorium, you can see that there certainly needs some upgrades. Whereas, much of this is also compliance and requirements. So I'm sharing this slide because it's important to note for the board and for the community and the public who may be tuning in that whereas, yes, we're healthy in our capital reserve accounts, we still have many, many facility upgrades to complete, which will be funded directly through our capital. And we're healthy in our capital reserve account at this time. So moving forward, what's changing for this 26-27 budget? Well, quite frankly, a lot. We have significant cost drivers, and we start this budget in an immediate deep deficit. So as you may recall from the previous year, where I had recommended to the board to increase the tax levy for the first time in 10 years, that was due to a significant increase in health insurance. So as you may be aware, the board as an employer has requirements to provide employees with health benefits. And last year, it was recommended from our broker of record, who advises us on all things related to healthcare, to increase that by 30%. In addition to that recent increase in 30%, he is now advising as part of this budget to increase it an additional 30%. So that is a significant number that puts us in an already large deficit in planning this budget, again, to the tune of approximately $2.2 million. So we have healthcare rising at an incredible rate and cost. We then have salaries district-wide. These are annual varied depending on salary guide increments per each collective bargaining agreement. But again, you have an increase here. You then have out-of-district tuition. So we're projecting a $900,000 increase. This is due to special educations for students who require out-of-district services. This is in part due to those existing placements who now have increased costs, who pass them along to the sending district, but also we plan accordingly for any new out-of-district placements as well. So you have those three increases in costs. And now, as I had shared from the previous slide, but some new information, for the first time in 5 years, the district is receiving less state aid than the previous year. So the total state revenues decreased by approximately $530,000. So again, compared to the previous year where we received over $700,000, now from that baseline state aid number, we are receiving $530,000 less. So what does this all mean? The combined impact, these cost increases and the revenue losses, total approximately $4.6 million, far exceeding what a standard 2% levy increase on the previous year's levy can cover. And you see noted on the bottom that 2% levy would only develop a little over $600,000. So you might say, why are we decreasing in state aid? The district was running really well there for a few years, and that's true. Well, there is a formula that the state puts forth and then designates the state aid to each district, typically in late February, early March. And one of the reasons is our enrollment. So last year I provided a snapshot as of March 1st, 2025. This year I have a similar snapshot as of March 1st of this school year. And if you were to compare this slide's information to last year's slide, we have a decrease of approximately 100 students district-wide. So then you may ask, well, what's happening there? Well, yes, it's true. We have a graduating senior class, right? And then you have incoming students in pre-K and K. That's normal, right? That's in most districts. But then even within the complete district enrollment, we lost approximately 103 students there for various reasons, moving, to different towns, in some cases back to a home country. There isn't a particular trend analysis, but those are the general reasons that we have students moving out. So as a result of this significant decrease in enrollment, the state then calculates that based upon, that drop, and then provides less funding. This is referred to as equalization aid. Coupled with that formula is also property tax values here in Richfield Park. So the state views Richfield Park property values as doing quite well. So couple all that within the mathematics formula from the state, and as a result, we have that $530,000 decrease in state aid, again, for the first time in 5 years. So in terms of the 26-27 revenue budget funding, so at 2%, again, that would get us to about $30.9 million. That's, again, would be an approximate $606,000 from the previous year. And if you compare that to the over $4 million where we're in a deficit, as you can see, the 2% levy, just scratches the surface in making up those funds. We then have what we refer to as allowable adjustments. And last year I spent a good amount of time communicating to the board and community what those are. You can break them up into two buckets: healthcare waiver and bank cap. The healthcare waiver is what the state allows for districts to use because it looks at your running healthcare costs, and knowing that that is such a variable, the state allows an adjustment, and in our case it's $1.7 million, which is not designated on the slide, but that's the amount, to generate as an allowable adjustments to raise the levy to make up the cost of that healthcare insurance. We then have what we refer to as bank cap. And you may recall from last year's presentation that for many years, the district came in at under 2%. So what that means was the district did not levy at the permissible percent of 2% and effectively did not tax the taxpayers the full amount. And as a result, there are some carryover funds. Now, in some years, those carryover funds were lost because the district didn't utilize the allowable adjustments. In this case, we have a little over $400,000 in bank cap and $1.7 million in the healthcare waiver adjustment. So when you combine those, it's a little over $2 million. In this budget, we are recommending to the board to use $1.4 million of that total larger bucket, which would demonstrate a gradual increase to the tax levy. Again, in previous years, levying at 2%. Last year, for the first time, we came in at 4.74. I should say first time in 10 years. The district has levied over 2% prior to that. Again, we're recommending here to the board a gradual increase, again, this year to raise the tax levy to 6.74. And the reason why is because we have that allowable adjustment, which rather than generate $600,000, it would generate an additional $1.4 million. And again, this is to help offset the rising costs that I shared in the previous slide. So you see below you have the fund balance that comes directly from the previous slide in terms of the 1.4. Again, that was due to the resolution that was passed from the June 2025 board meeting, where you have this assigned for surplus. I'm going to hold on dissecting that a little bit more in the next few slides. In terms of state revenue, we have the state aid number, $17,130,027. Again, that is a decrease in approximately $530,000. We then have our projected extraordinary aid for the past 2 years. We've come in at 1.6, so we're going to keep that flat at 1.6. We then have tuition coming from Little Ferry and 2 other LEAs, so this provides revenue to educate those students here in Richfield Park. And then we have our miscellaneous category, semi, interest, facility rentals in the amount of just under $1 million. We then have our reserve allocations as noted from a previous slide, but here we would be recommending to the board to fund this budget directly related to specific capital projects that I'll share on a future slide, but to pull approximately $2.8 million from capital reserve to fund those projects, $600,000 from our maintenance reserve for day-to-day daily operations facilities. Think of them not as big ticket projects. And then we have our tuition reserve of $250,000. So all of that in the total operating budget, excluding federal funding, which is on the next slide, would be approximately $63,247,930. Now, when you look at the operating budget in the first upper left-hand side there, again, you have the proposed total tax levy at 6.74%. We then have our state aid and other revenue, reserves and fund balance, and that number 62.2 million is the same as the previous slide. Below that, we have our federal grant detail, which are absolutely subject to change. This is what we are projecting, which is a lower projection from the previous year. By all accounts, we're hearing that these may go down. But we have our different title funding and IDA Part B. And on the right-hand side, we have our grants and entitlements, our preschool education aid. I have an additional slide on that, but it's approximately $300,000 higher from the previous year. So from the preschool expansion program, we're receiving approximately, we are receiving not an approximate number, but 2.9 million, 2,930,685. The federal sources comes from our projections for title and IDA. As part of our pre-K program, the district also has to fund part of that program because it is an inclusion program. So the inclusion seats are part of the district's cost in the amount of $504,420. So then you have all your total grants and entitlements. So when you include all of these grants and entitlements, in addition to the previous slide, you come in at the total revenue sources of $67,849,420. Which you see the increase from the previous year in terms of revenues. Now, I had spoken a few times about this 1.4 million in assigned funds, and you may say, well, great, you have that available in 26, 27. We should use that to fund the budget, and that will help reduce the tax levy and help you balance the budget. However, we've been cautioned to not utilize that to offset the budget, or at least in its totality. So to be clear, we are using roughly 300,000 of that 1.4 million to be applied to both lower the levy and stabilize the budget. But the remaining 1.1 million is being designated and directed towards addressing deferred upgrades and things that the district is really in need of. So you might say, well again, why not use that to fund the budget? Well, the risk of using this surplus to be directed towards levy relief is that this surplus is a one-time money where we would not want to use it for recurring costs, because if we were to do that, the 27-28 budget, we would need to come up with that same amount. So if we were to use, to be clear, if we were to use all of this $1.4 million in surplus, all of that in this budget, then in 27-28, and 28-29, so forth and so forth, we'd be creating a structural hole, because there's no guarantee that we're going to have those funds again. Despite the fact that we may end this year in a surplus, there's no guarantee that in future budgets we will have that. So if that surplus runs dry, the district then faces drastic cuts or a much larger tax increase than the one we're proposing, which would be far worse for taxpayers to do all in one sitting. And you might say, well, where is that $1.1 million going? Well, on the right-hand side, we have the accelerated long overdue upgrades. For many years, these upgrades have been deferred. Using this surplus allows us to make these one-time purchases rather than spreading them out across many budget cycles. So after an internal needs analysis with department heads, we, for consideration, are proposing the following. So a small bus with a wheelchair lift and a large bus with air conditioning. The district has not purchased or leased a new bus since 2016. By utilizing and purchasing, as an example, a small bus with a wheelchair lift, that would allow us to bring back an immediate route. By bringing back that route that is currently outsourced where we pay for it, we would then pay off the cost of the bus within 2 years. We are looking at major technological device upgrades. So this is not just devices like Chromebooks, but also smart boards and other devices that would directly impact and support our tremendous teaching staff in the classroom to support our students. We then would look to purchase 3- and 5-year curriculum contracts. We would be targeting social studies and ELA resources. And then also we have remaining significant classroom furniture upgrades, both here at the junior senior high school and across our elementary schools. So to kind of conclude this, again, we're not recommending utilizing all of the 1.4 for these overdue upgrades. We have designated 300,000 to help offset the budget and lower the levy. But again, it's extremely advisable to not use this to offset the budget with all of those funds, because again, we'd be creating a structural gap for future budgets, which would be a significant concern. So what does our 26-27 budget include? Support for students through staffing, programs, and resources. We're able to maintain our instructional and extracurricular athletic programs. Very proud of all of our programs that we offer our students. We've invested a lot of focus in fostering staff growth through professional development. So as we've released many new initiatives in a short amount of time, we're also mindful of the subsequent professional development that's needed to support our dedicated staff. And then continuing our essential investment in our infrastructure. So in terms of budget goal one, staffing and programs, this is a similar slide to last year, which my approach to staffing for the 26-27 budget is a cautious one. So while we do have identified specific staffing needs for the 26-27 school year, we're also being very mindful of an already stretched budget. As we saw on the previous slide, approximately, and this isn't unique to Ridgefield Park, but in most districts, about 75 to 80% of your budget is going to be salaries and benefits. So anytime we add additional staff, that just contributes to an already stretched budget. However, we do have needs. I'm just not recommending any new full-time equivalent, commonly referred to as an FTE addition. So rather than adding any new positions that would further strain our budget, we have been exploring creative ways to strategically reallocate existing resources. Now, I need to be clear that this may involve some role restructuring to address critical needs that we have, and by critical I mean typically related to compliance in the world of special education. So we do have needs, but we will have to take a look at internal staffing, so to not increase the overall staffing footprint, but to be able to create the positions that we need from our existing staffing perspective. So our goal here is to maximize the impact of our current team while also maintaining fiscal responsibility. So in terms of ongoing instructional and curriculum programs, these are just a few that have an ongoing cost to support our programs. I promised a slide on pre-K. So as it relates to budget goal one, our pre-K program growth and required staffing. So this is a trend in the state aid specific to PEA that we've been receiving. You may recall when I first arrived here in 23-24, we had 5 total classrooms, 1 of which was internal, 4 of which were with 2 off-site pre-K providers, being Little Stars and the Co-op. We've maintained those partnerships over the past few years, but internally we have increased over the past 3 years to current 25-26 to 12 classrooms. So what does that mean? 4 of those classrooms are still external, but we went from 1 internal classroom to 8 total. We've done that in collaboration with the Special Services Department to make inclusive settings for our students. So turning some preschool disabled classrooms into inclusion settings, but also by just taking a look at facilities and space, we've been able to create pre-K programs from within. At this point, we are truly maxed out. So you might say, well, if you look at the column for 26-27, how will you be going to 13? We're looking at partnering with an additional pre-K provider. So we would have 3, and then we would maintain our 8. As a result, we have received the additional state aid, again, by approximate $300,000 from the previous year. And the row in regard to the Universe Met, we see a steady increase. This is essentially a formula based on your first grade enrollment in terms of how you're able to meet all of the students who would need tuition-free pre-K. But we're very proud to have grown this program in a short amount of time. And whereas there's no guarantee, we have a very good shot at providing tuition-free pre-K for all next year. I can't stress the importance of that. When we have an additional 2 years in pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 of the students sitting in our chairs, exposed to our certificated staff and our curriculum, the benefits may not be noticeable immediate, but over time it's systemic. And when you have students in the chairs for those additional 2 years prior to kindergarten, not only does it allow us to do some early intervention based upon student needs, but the growth within those 2 years is really incredible. And I believe very strongly that over time, that will contribute to our already increasing student proficiency rates. So a required position funded by the PEA is a Community Parent Involvement Specialist, generally referred to as a CPIS. This would require a job description approved by the board, and we would have a search process. But again, this is not funded through the district budget. It is funded from that $2.9 million. So whereas it may seem that we are adding a position, it stems directly from the increase in state aid that we're receiving due to the fact that we have this program. And this position is needed. Our director of preschool education is doing the bulk of this work, but it is overdue, and again, a requirement to have this position. And when you have 13 classrooms to support our pre-K family engagement, it's time to implement this particular position as we expand the program. So in terms of budget goal 2, capital improvement projects, continuing our essential investment in our infrastructure. I had mentioned on the previous slide that we would be pulling and budgeting revenue from the capital reserve account. We have the junior senior high school roof, and you might say, well, wait a minute, didn't we just do the academic roof in the previous budget? We did, but that was the academic portion. Obviously, this facility that we're in today is quite large. There are different portions of the roof. The academic roof was funded as part of last year's budget, but here where we have participated in the ROD grants and we put in new HVAC units over the gymnasium and the cafeteria, we knew that we also had to complete the roof. Currently, we have some leaks in there, so we absolutely need to pull from capital to fund this project. We then have our ongoing technology infrastructure lease agreement. These are items that you may not physically see. Think of switchers, servers, forest, cabling, things kind of behind the scenes, but nonetheless needs to be implemented, funded through capital, so we can sustain our technology infrastructure. So you see the total there. So quick preliminary budget tax impact. So what does this mean for our residents and taxpayers? So Dr. Hayes had reached out to the town, so this is subject to change, but based upon an average assessed home value of $430,600 with a proposed tax levy of 6.74% in that amount, we see that on that average assessed home, it would be an increase of approximately $581 per year and $48 per month. But what does this investment mean for our students, right? So staffing levels are preserved. Emerging needs would be met through reallocation, as I noted on the previous slide, but no new additions. Academic programs that are driving student proficiency gains would remain. No cuts to personnel or academic programs. New buses, as I mentioned, including accessible transportation, upgrades to our technology, and then again, curriculum resources for consideration. So, supporting our student success through sustainable revenue. This presents an opportunity to strengthen our revenue foundation. So right now, the district can use the allowable adjustments, and it's really important to note that on the previous slide, we had 1.4 million. Realistically, we have over $2 million that we could use. If we implemented and had I recommended to the board to utilize that full allowable adjustments, the tax levy would be 9%. And I can tell you that there are even some neighboring districts who are coming in at a 9% tax levy. Many districts in Bergen County are coming over with a 5, a 6, a 7. So this challenge and the deficit that we have, that's to be clear, that's not unique to Ridgefield Park. In part, it's connected to student enrollment. Yes, the amount of state aid, but again, the state aid is just one of the revenue streams. All of these increases that districts are experiencing is a result of just overall budgeting from New Jersey and the increase in cost that we have. So again, to be clear, this budget, we are trying to gradually increase the tax levy. At least that's my recommendation. But this could be a 9% tax levy had we used all of the allowable adjustments. But we're looking to continue to build on our levy base at above the 2% because it's not sustainable. That formula simply does not work. And using these now create a stronger, more sustainable revenue foundation going forward. It's also really important to note that our students are making real progress. As you may recall from my State of the District presentation, our students are showing meaningful growth and proficiency in both ELA and math. In NJSLA, we in a very short amount of time, over 2 years, we have increases of 10 and 11% respectively in those tested grades. The junior senior high school and NJGPA testing, we're also seeing some really great gains. So maintaining our current programs and staffing levels supports this momentum and helps us build on the progress that we're already seeing. And it's also important to note that these cost drivers are non-discretionary, right? So the majority of cost increases are driven by factors outside of the district's control, such as health insurance premiums, contractual salary obligations, special education requirements, and then the reductions in state aid. So by strengthening the revenue through the levy, this allows the district to meet these obligations while also protecting programs, personnel, and services that our students rely on. So quick preliminary budget recap. So in recent years, we have managed budgets responsibly. We've produced in surplus for 3 consecutive years. Rising healthcare costs, tuition placements, contractual salary increases, declining state aid have created a structural shift that a 2% levy alone simply cannot cover. So we are recommending to use the available allowable adjustments to build a sustainable levy, not to overspend. But these assigned funds that we have will also accelerate long overdue upgrades, including transportation, technology, curriculum, and furniture. This approach supports our students, it preserves our programs and staff, and stabilizes the budget, and also safeguards property values across the community. So that overall concludes the presentation, but in terms of some next steps here, so tonight the board will vote on the preliminary budget. They do that under finance and insurance section of the agenda. There's a resolution with all of these numbers that are relevant to the resolution for the board to vote on this evening. Thereafter, Dr. Hayes would submit the preliminary budget to the county office for approval by Friday of this week. And then once we receive, and if we receive approval from the county office, there would then be a public hearing that would be advertised for the Board of Education to vote on the final budget. And typically this would come in April, and our April meeting is already slated for April 29th. So this concludes my presentation. I may just leave it up in the event that if the board has any questions, or if the community has any questions on the budget, I may be able to refer back to it. I appreciate your kind attention and engagement to this, and again, thank you to the full team for contributing to this. As you can imagine, it requires a significant amount of thought, detail, and time to get this to where we believe will benefit our students. Thank you.
I'll open it up to the board for comments, questions, clarifications. Linda?
I just have one question, because I think you've answered a lot of our questions past couple of days. Just referring back to like slide 7, you mentioned decrease in enrollment and how the state takes that into consideration, and also the rising property value of our houses, as you noted in the presentation. And I'm just like thinking, are staff cuts like inevitable, or like another increase of tax levy like next year? What is like the plan in the near future?
Thanks for that question. So as a result of this budget recommendation to increase the tax levy, other than funding and doing some restructuring internally for critical needs positions, this budget does not cut any staff. So we're trying to preserve staff for our students, but in order to balance this budget, that would have to come through the increase in the tax levy. So if the tax levy was not increased, right, then as a result, I would have to take a look at cutting personnel and potentially some programs, although programs don't typically generate significant funds. Primarily, again, as we know, about 80% of a budget is personnel and benefits. Typically, districts need to then begin to cut personnel. Difficult for me to forecast next year as to whether or not there would need to be another raise in the tax levy and even potential personnel cuts within that. All I can share is what we see trending, and we hear often, and in administrative circles, we hear about the fiscal cliff. It's clear that the 2% formula just simply doesn't work. So we have to either turn to cuts or continue to gradually increase the tax levy. But again, there may be a day where that cliff, I think the cliff is really here at this point. We're trying to stay ahead of it, and we've done pretty well. If we get to the point where Richfield Park is at that cliff, there is no guarantee that the levy wouldn't be increased with personnel cuts as well during a future budget. To be clear, that's not within this budget. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just curious, this is for anybody that might have the answer. Historically, has the governor of the state has come out to help education as far as the healthcare excessive cost?
Well, again, what the state does is it provides district with what we refer to as a healthcare waiver. So that's generated in the budget software system, and we receive that amount. In this case, the state has provided, think of it as relief, because again, not unique to Richfield Park, healthcare costs across, the costs across the state are increasing and impacting several districts, particularly those who are in the state health benefits plans, which we are. So as a result of that increase in cost, the state tries to alleviate that, and they say, well, okay, here is a designated amount that you can use. However, that amount then increases the tax levy because it directly impacts. So you go above the 2%, in that dollar amount. And then the calculation, at least in this case, for the amount that we're recommending, comes to 6.74%.
So basically, there's really no relief.
Other than the healthcare waiver that the state
Right,
provides.
which we end up paying for anyway. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Michelle?
I have a couple of questions. First, can you just share some of the areas? I know you shared them with me previously, but can you just share some of the areas where your team has been able to trim from the budget, where we maybe previously in past years had over budgeted that may have resulted in the surpluses that we were seeing? I know we spoke about it privately, but I think it's important to share with the public.
Yeah, sure. For public consumption, what Vice President Arthur is referring to is we went through an internal process where we engaged our auditor, Lynch Versey Bliss, to help us understand where specifically were the major categories where we were landing with a surplus. As you know, on one of the slides, I'd indicated that we ended with a little over 5 million and then 6.1 million, and then we're projected to end this year with a surplus, less of a surplus, but at 3.8 million. So we wanted to look at that so we could then take a look at planning for the 26-27 budget for potential historical inflated line items. And again, that's not necessarily in recent years. That may very well have been stemmed from prior to 23-24. However, we did want to be mindful, and we were able to trim quite a bit in order to balance this budget. So that comes from the work that I had thanked Dr. Hayes, Ms. Triglia, and Mr. Matisich on. So specifically, we looked at some areas, one of which would be natural gas. So the gas line that was budgeted was much higher than historically over the past few years we've spent. So the money was there. So rather than continue on that inflated number, as an example, we pulled back that number, and then that, of course, then reduced the appropriation for that line, so we didn't need to come up with that revenue. So that would just be one example. We spent a lot of time looking at some of those, inflated areas. So we did do a lot of trimming as part of this budget, despite the fact that, again, we're recommending an increase in the tax levy.
And then I just wanted to confirm, is the healthcare waiver something that can be banked for future years? Like you said that we were approved for 1.7 million, but we're only taking 1.4. Do we bank that $300,000?
Yep, thanks for that question. Yes, so we verified with our auditor that the monies that are not used would carry over. So it's essentially two buckets, one being the healthcare waiver and another specifically bank cap. But realistically, it all becomes bank cap and allowable adjustment. But we did verify that if we don't use the full amount, now to be clear, we will lose approximately $250,000 of the existing banked cap. But that's because the state software, budget software system forces you to use the healthcare waiver. So if we're not using full healthcare waiver, the other bucket of bank cap, where we have, I mentioned, a little over $437,000, some of that, you have to use that over the course of a few years. And because we would not be utilizing that, we would lose some of that. However, we would make up for it for the amount that's preserved from not utilizing the full healthcare waiver.
And then can you explain kind of the rationale behind gradually increasing the tax base? So from my mind, increasing it 6% this year and 6% next year, as opposed to 2% this year and 10% next year.
Yeah, so the thought process there is, I would want to first go back to last year. Last year, I recommended a 4.74 increase. However, that could have been over 6. So although we're recommending a 6% increase this year, it could have been that last year. So let's just say we came in at 6 last year. Yes, that would have helped build the base. But again, that tax levy doesn't that tax levy doesn't generate a significant amount. And not to make light of hundreds of thousands of dollars, but when you look at your costs, it doesn't quite add up, right? So we could have gone to 6% last year. Depending on how things may have played out, we would have to calculate and see where we land. But let's just say we landed that we could have gone to 9% this year. So within 2 years, we could have gone up 15%. Whereas here, it's a bit more gradual. We went up 4%, then 6%, so a 10% increase. So the idea isn't to just in one sitting push this all to the taxpayer and they get, lumped over the head with a massive increase in 1 year. We're trying to spread that out. What I would think is responsibly to spread that out over multiple years and be it gradual, so that not utilizing all the allowable adjustments and making that increase gradual. There will be, as we said, allowable adjustments next year, potentially new healthcare waiver, depending on where that lands. I think what we're learning here is that the 2% tax levy just simply doesn't meet the needs of the district. And again, that's not Ritual Park. I certainly don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to be over 2% next year, but we are going to be in a similar situation next year if these trends continue. And by trends, I mean decreasing state aid, increase in healthcare costs, and all the other costs that I shared. That the 2% levy simply cannot cover it.
And then this is less a question about the budget, I think, but on the PEA slides, we're showing that we're at 70% of our or 76% of our universe, which I know is based on the first grade numbers. But I thought I remembered that we didn't have to have a lottery for spots in the pre-K. So those two things don't coincide for me.
I want to make sure I'm understanding your thought correctly. So this year, when we had the amount of folks, families who registered, we did not have to have a lottery, but then additional families came on to then request, but then those placements were filled. So at the time of registration, it did not require a lottery because we were able to offer it all.
Okay.
And we'll probably run into a similar situation this year, where we'll have have the seats and be able to fill them. But if folks come in after the fact, right, later in the school year at any point, then they simply go on a wait list. But right now we've been able to trim down the wait list. In fact, we've had open spots and recently we've reached out. And although we had some folks on the wait list, they haven't gone filled.
And so do we really believe that there's another 25% of the population that's not taking advantage of the pre-K? Or we think maybe that the universe that they projected for us is overstated?
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Trigley, I don't know if you have a little bit on that, but I mean, the fact is the calculation for the universe is somewhat of a formula, but I can just tell you internally, based upon, even though you see the percentage for this year and what's projected for this year, technically we're really meeting the needs of our students, or at least the families. And again, there may very well be, families who decide to just go to a different daycare center and pay.
Mm-hmm.
They're not obligated to participate in tuition-free pre-K.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to just say one thing, okay?
Yes, Ms. Malou.
First, Dr. V, I want to thank you and Dr. Hayes and Ms. Trigley and the rest of your team for putting together this comprehensive report. But most importantly, I wanted to thank you for explaining, because in my mind, I still didn't have a good idea what the risk of using the surplus for the levy relief would be. So I want to thank you for clearing that up in my mind, because that was a very big question that I had. So thank you.
Our pleasure.
Mr. Feitros, any comments or questions?
No, I'm good. I thought that was a very good, very well presented. It was a very good presentation. I'm good for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I have a question, Dr. Hayes. I didn't give you the heads up to ask you this question, but so I apologize for that. I saw you relaxing there for a minute. You are in some ways a fresh set of eyes on our books, but also you've been here before, and you've also been to many other places across the state. So I kind of trust your pulse on where Richfield Park is relative to the state and where the state is headed. And I just wanted to get your feedback on, where you see us and what concerns you about, the way forward for this district. Good stuff too.
So it seems like part of almost a dilemma that I've been saying to Dr. V and the team over the last 10 days is it appeared paradoxical that we were amassing surplus. And now all of a sudden we're faced with a decreasing surplus, and the only way to compensate for that is via an increased tax levy. But from what I'm seeing around the state, if this is answering your question, Doc, is we're really Ridgefield Park, we're in a good place from the past few years with the surplus, because the most devastating I've heard is that there's a district out there who didn't have any banked cap for this year, nor were they able to via the increase. They're not in the state health benefits plan like us, which is a problem, that we're in the state health benefits plan, but they're not in the state health benefits plan. So their increase in health benefits isn't as high as the other traditional districts. And they were faced with a $5 million budget deficit. And the only way, as Dr. V pointed out, to address that is via personnel. And so, again, I don't want to say it. I'm struggling to say it. It's a good problem, but again, right now, I don't think we're in as bad or dire straits as some of the other districts that I'm aware of in North Jersey, anyway.
Thank you. I also wanted to kind of ask, in terms of cap reserves, Dr. V, how much do we have in cap reserves? And I know you showed the slide with the long range facilities plan, but what are the pressing purchases? Because how much do we have in cap bank?
Yeah, we
cap
have
reserves.
little under 10 million right now. And again, as part of this budget, we'd be pulling 2.8 million. So that would drop it, right? At the end of this year, if the projections hold true, where we end with approximately $3.8 million, then we would push some of those funds back into capital.
So $8 million, if I came home with $8 million, my wife would be very happy with what I could do to the house. So it seems like a lot of money, but I know that at one point you mentioned how much a boiler cost and some of these other purchases. Can you put some ballpark on what $8
Yeah.
billion in a district like this, given the 15 years of neglect that we had?
Yeah. Immediately, as you said, what comes to mind is a boiler at Roosevelt. We do need, 2 new boilers. Boilers, as we know, just from home ownership, tend not to be cheap, but for a large facility such as that, you're probably, Mr. Egu will tell you, probably coming just under 3 million with the roof addition. So, some of those more pressing needs, and then there's always, the what if, right? We have some things designated in the long range facility plan. Again, some of them kind of in a holding pattern, kind of lean towards wish list, but some of them are, again, compliance, safety, health. But one also never knows, if another roof goes or another boiler goes. And again, we're very healthy in those reserves. Some that has come from responsible budgeting. So, it's not as if that surplus is being pushed into a reserve account that's not going to be utilized, because it absolutely will.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? And so I'll extend that thank you, and I'm have another thank you for you guys later. But thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the process. This board has really asked a ton of questions of this administration. You've been polite throughout all of them, which is very, very nice, given how the sheer volume of questions in a short order. And so I guess we will now move on to listen to citizens' comments on agenda. Do we have anyone to elevate? You signed it? No. You can come up to the microphone, Mr. Tadros. Good evening, Mr. Tadros.
That work? Good evening, David Tadros, teacher, and also the president of the RPA, representing teachers, secretaries, custodians, nurses. First of all, congratulations on a presentation that preserves the staff of the school district, people on the front lines dealing with students every day, making the difference. We appreciate that. I know a lot of work went into this to make sure that we preserve the staff, and I'm glad that happened. And I'm sure a lot of people are breathing a sigh of relief tonight. I appreciate that. Very good. With a 30% healthcare increase and losing $529,000 out of the state aid, it's a monumental task, and I'm glad everybody was here to take care of that and make sure that we come through. I have a couple quick questions, and I know the bank cap, we're using all of our bank cap or? Sure.
So again, think of it as, two separate buckets within one larger. So within the healthcare waiver, we were granted in the state budget software $1.7 million. In bank cap, we have approximately $437,000. The bank cap designation, it's kind of like a lose it or use it. So again, what I explained earlier is because we're not utilizing all of the healthcare waiver and the software, Dr. Hayes will tell you, you can't access the bank cap unless you use all of the healthcare waiver. So because we're not utilizing all of the healthcare waiver, which was 1.7, and we're using 1.4, that remaining bucket of bank cap, some of it will be lost, but our auditor tells us that we will make up for that from the preserving some of the funds from the healthcare waiver, which would go into that larger bucket of an allowable adjustment. Can I explain that clearly?
It just the way it looked in the budget is just because we did $1,447,000 increase in waiver. Because I was wondering, was $1 million in the waiver and 447 bank cap?
Yeah, so 1.7 in the waiver and about $400,000. So when you think of it collectively, think of it as a $2.1 million bucket. We've recommended the board 1.4 million.
Excellent. All right. So again,
yeah.
Okay. Congratulations. Great job. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you,
job.
Mr. Tadros. Do we have anyone to elevate? Okay. There will be a public comment period during the April 29th meeting where the public will be able to make comments on the final budget. And with that, I guess I will close the public comment period and we'll move on to our agenda items. Trustee Orth, can you please move policy and regulations 801?
I move policy and regulations 801.
Have a second?
Second.
Do you have any questions or comments on policy and regulations? Seeing none, can I please have a roll call?
Trustee Coloma,
Yes.
trustee Phytros,
Yes.
trustee Malul,
Yes.
trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
trustee Velez,
Yes.
trustee Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, and the resolutions pass. Trustee Rodriguez, can you please move faculty and programs 901 to 912, including the revised 902 and 909?
I so move resolution FNP 901 to 912, including 902 and 909.
Can I have a second?
Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments on faculty and programs? Seeing none, I'd just like to thank Mr. Pessler for the donation of a drum set. I've noticed at some of our events, we have many great drummers in RP. And so I think it will go to good use here in this new home. May I please have a roll call?
Trustee Coloma,
Yes.
trustee Phytros,
Yes.
trustee Malul,
Yes.
trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
trustee Velez,
Yes.
trustee Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, and the resolutions pass. We don't have any buildings and grounds to move, but we do have finance and insurance. Trustee Velez, can you please move finance and insurance 1101 to 1122, including 1108, the preliminary budget?
I so move finance and insurance 1101 to 1122, including 1108.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Now, I want to invite the trustees to explain their process and their votes, but I kind of wanted to tee it up with a little statement. A little over 10 years ago, this district made a series of mistakes and poor decisions that led to a shortfall. Unlike that situation, tonight the board is voting on whether to raise taxes or whether to raise taxes to compensate for mistakes made at the state and federal level, not at the local level. Dr. Vespignani and his team have been very conservative with hiring, adding positions in the single digits across 2 years, while reorganizing and combining many roles at a significant savings. They moved the board office out of Lincoln School to bring autism classrooms back into the district. They found space in-house for pre-K classrooms and combined many administrative positions. We now follow the letter of our policies and abide by education law, evaluate by merit, and maintain a good working relationship with our unions, cutting tens of thousands in legal fees. We have done all this while making the facilities look and function well, and this past year we saw the first significant bump in academic achievement in a long time. This past summer, my daughters, who graduated just 5 years ago, told me that this doesn't even look like their school anymore. By putting the needs of children over adults, we as a board, as a school district, and as a community have turned an entire district around in a few short years. No small task. Across New Jersey, we are known as an up-and-coming district. We did this, and I hope the best is yet to come. However, what we're not responsible for is the 30% increase in state employee healthcare plan, the 17% increase in utilities or fuel, or the inflation we all feel at home. 3/4 of Bergen County districts are raising their tax levy, and districts that were less prudent than we have been are in so much trouble they will not be able to dig themselves out, no matter the levy. Unlike the self-inflicted wounds of the past, this problem was not born here. It was handed to districts across the state. The decision before us tonight is whether to correct those top-down mistakes by increasing our already high taxes in a tax levy, or pass that burden on to the children and teachers of this district through staff and program cuts. That is a difficult lose-lose situation we find ourselves in. I can assure you that over the past 2 weeks, there have been no fewer than 50 emails, phone calls, and several virtual meetings that took place between the administration and this highly skeptical board. We have asked everything that has come to mind, and the administration has listened and responded thoughtfully. If I had hair, I would have lost it over the past week, and I suggest Dr. Vespignani not get too attached to his, because this board will continue to do its due diligence as we know he will do his. The 10 of us are taxpayers in Richfield Park. None of us makes money being on the board. Everyone on this board ran because we wanted to make sure we had the school system that matched the great parents and children and teachers of this district. Even though most of us no longer have children in the district, we will not allow ourselves to go backwards. As a taxpayer in Richfield Park, I feel blessed that this board will continue to make decisions based on what's good for children, because what's good for our schools is good for the entire community. We welcome feedback and ideas on what we can do differently, and there will be time for us to hear from you before the final budget is entered next month. If you're upset about what has befallen us, I recommend that rather than ranting in the Facebook abyss, you become more engaged with our state and federal leadership who created this mess, and you reach out to them, and in November you vote based on how they respond to you. Before we vote, I'd like to express my gratitude to this dedicated board for your intelligence, your diligence, and your integrity in the face of this difficult decision and many others. To Dr. Vespignani, Ms. Triglia, and the administrative staff for your hard work, making sure that we all understand the rationale behind your decisions. I think we all learned more about school finance this past week than I ever wanted to. Dr. Hayes, for your help with this budget, and the staff of this district for teaching, loving, and inspiring our babies every day. And with that, I want to open it up to the board for any comments that you want to make before we take a roll call.
I just want to say that I thank you for answering all my emails and all my questions. And I know a lot of them were redundant, but like Mr. Malou said, it just took me a long time to kind of really see the big picture and truly understand what the numbers meant. So thank you for your patience and for getting back to me so quickly. I appreciate it.
Brilliant.
Right. Wow. Okay. After I'm just gonna read it. I have carefully reviewed because it's very emotional. I have carefully reviewed the many emails and questions raised by this board and have heard the budget presentation multiple times. Initially, I struggled. I really did struggle with the idea of increasing the tax levy. Fully understand the impact this has on taxpayer. I am one as well. And like many in our communities, I really do feel the financial strain of rising taxes, increasing the the cost of benefits. I'm an educator too, and other obligations, that we incur living in Bergen County. These are difficult times for all of us. But at the end of the day, I do feel comfortable supporting this budget. And we are, being asked to make a difficult decision with circumstances, like Dr. Martinez said, that are largely inherited or beyond our control. And when I face situations like these, I really sit down, I make a list, and I think about the advantages and the disadvantages. And clearly, although my husband won't agree with me, um, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. And I really thank this board, Dr. Hayes, and the administration, Dr. Vespignani, for presenting us with the information and with this budget. And like Mr. Tadro said, the fact that you're able to do this and not lay off teachers and educators, it says a lot. It says a lot. We've come a long way. Let me go and okay. So basically, yeah, the class sizes and ultimately compromise the quality of education for our students in Richfield Park. I feel that when schools decline, property values often follow. And this is not an easy decision, but it is a necessary, I feel that this is a necessary one if we want to protect both our students and our community's future. And the reality is that the strength of our schools, it impacts the strength of our community. And I just want to thank you.
Trustee Schmidt?
Okay, I'll try to be brief and not redundant, but
It's a big decision.
yeah,
Take your time.
and it is very emotional. I agree with Berlinda there. It's been like I've been on eggshells for a week. We all know that there will be some angry, worried, frustrated, or disappointed taxpayers after this meeting. Those feelings are justified, and some are shared by myself and probably other board members as well, as Berlinda said. Up until today, I still was not 100% sure that I could vote yes for this budget. And Ricardo knows because I called him like 20 minutes before the meeting with more questions. While I know staying at a 2% tax levy is just an impossibility, I felt like we still owe it to our residents and our taxpayers to just cut something. I felt like even if it's $100 of savings per household, that it makes a difference, especially to those taxpayers that can't afford to take on one more extra dollar. But then there's also the flip side. And to cut staff or programs is to also rob our children or punish them for large scale problems at the state and federal level. To me, that can't be the solution. And frankly, even if we were to make substantial cuts, it's not going to solve the problem at all, but rather set us back and put us into a worse position for the following year and the year after that. Who knows? Something definitely does need to change. And I think that everyone can agree with that. And I think it's important that the residents be informed, not just that tonight, the Board of Ed increased our tax levy, but understand the why. And if more people can understand the why, then perhaps we can do our individual parts to try and change the course of things. I know for one, I will do my part. I've learned a lot throughout this process. Did a lot of Googling, did a lot, I'm not in the school systems at all. I'm like, what does this mean? What does that mean? And finance, forget it. So I'm definitely doing my due diligence over here before I make these decisions. But more than that, I will also express my frustrations with those who have more control over a lot of these factors. As we've seen, so much of this is not in our hands. We've been forced into this position. And then lastly, I do want to also thank Dr. V and the business office and the rest of the board for their time and effort in preparing the budget and asking all the tough questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt.
So I guess I want to also start by acknowledging the work that's gone into this budget, especially given the transition in the BA's business administrator's role. I also recognize that the cost pressures outlined, healthcare, tuition, contractual increases are real and largely outside of the district's control. I want to say that this has been a particularly difficult decision, one that I have absolutely lost sleep over. There are no easy options here, and I understand that there are many districts across the state that are facing similar challenges and are making these difficult choices, often with levy increases well above the proposed increase that we're seeing here today. That said, I'm still struggling with the assumption that this represents a fully structural deficit. Over the past several years, we've consistently generated significant surpluses, even in budgets that anticipated similar pressures. That pattern suggests that there may be some level of overestimation built into our budgeting process. In addition, our current levy already exceeds the local fair share, and when looking more broadly at the total tax burden to Ridgefield Park, it is already relatively high compared to other districts, about 36% over the median. Given those factors, I would have preferred to see a greater use of the available surplus to moderate the impact on taxpayers this year. I also recognize that there's some risks in that approach, and if my assumptions are off, it could result in a larger increase in future years. However, I would be more comfortable taking a measured approach now, closer to the base increase, and addressing any additional needs with more clarity next year, rather than building in that increase into the base right now. I also want to be clear that my comments and my vote should not be interpreted as a lack of support for the administration or the hard work that's being done by every employee in this district, or of a support of our students. I will say, as I sit here reading this, I'm glad I'm not voting right now, because I'm still in an undecided position.
Stuff.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And, Diane McNeil and Jody Kraft are not here, but they've been very instrumental in asking the questions, asking tough questions of the administration to help the rest of us, get up to speed with what's going on and why. So I want to thank them, even though they're not here. Ms. Coloma?
Sorry, I want to thank Dr. V and the administration. This is unbelievable work. What goes into this, I had no idea. As a new board member, also, I've been taking the time. I've sat through many explanations, asked questions, and did a lot of Googling, I will say as well, to try to understand and make an informed decision. I understand the concern about the tax increase. But my feeling is that much of it is being driven by factors outside of our control, especially the reductions in state aid and the rising healthcare costs. Lowering the levy, as has been said numerous times today, would mean the cuts that are going to impact our students and staff. And for me, that's just number one. So I believe that it's the most responsible path forward. So I'm going to be voting yes.
Thank you, Ms. Coloma. Mr. Malou?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Martinez. As I said earlier, thank you to Dr. Vespiani, Dr. Hayes, Ms. Triglia, and the rest of the team for putting this all together. This was a yeoman's job, and people don't realize how much effort you put into making this budget presentation. I will tell you that initially I was dead set against this and was going to adamantly vote no. However, I also have come to recognize that there are many things that we do not have control over: loss of state aid, rising healthcare costs, fuel and energy costs are beyond our control. So I am very grateful to hear tonight that Dr. Vespiani has guaranteed the fact that there'll be no loss of student programs and there'll be no cuts in faculty. And if that is in fact going to be the case, where we do not cut any programs for our students, we don't cut any of our faculty member positions, I will change my mind and support the proposed budget.
Thank you, Mr. Malou. Mr. Feitros? Best for last?
Oh, yeah, right. So I'll say that, a lot of times when I was reading the emails and looking at questions, people were asking the same question. So it's very exciting to see that everybody's on the same wavelength and everybody's asking a lot of the same questions or thinking the same way. I have, the unique view from two different districts at the same time. I'm looking at two different budgets, and no two districts are the same, but the stories are very similar. The health costs, these other expenses, it's just more than we can get from our taxpayers, and it puts everybody in a really unique and difficult situation. But I will say that I think that, you know, we've done a great job here in Richfield Park, and I think that the presentation goes a long way to what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to do here. Um, and that's to what Mr. Malul said, keep the programs, and what was also mentioned, that we're not cutting positions at this point and really trying to fight our way through this. And I think we're doing a great job, and you know, I was glad to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vitros. If we don't have any other comments, we will pull the Band-Aid off and ask for a roll call.
Trustee Coloma,
Yes.
trustee Phytros,
Yes.
trustee Malul,
Yes.
trustee Rodriguez,
Yes to all, an abstention on 1104.
trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
trustee Velez,
Yes.
trustee Orth,
Yes to all except 1108, and I'm assuming 1109 and 10.
President Martinez.
Yes to all. The resolutions pass. Trustee Schmidt, can you please move consent agenda 1201?
Make a motion to move consent agenda 1201.
Second.
Any questions or comments on consent agenda? Seeing none, may I please have a roll call?
Trustee Coloma,
Yes.
trustee Phytros,
Yes. Yes.
trustee Malul,
Yes.
trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
trustee Velez,
Yes.
trustee Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, and the resolution passes. Trustee Rodriguez, can you please move personnel 1301 to 1314, including the revised 1301, 1303, and 1306?
I so move resolutions on the, personnel 1301 through 1315, including the revised 1301, 1303, 1306.
May I please have a second?
Second.
Schmidt. Any questions or comments on personnel? Seeing none, may I please have a roll call?
Trustee Coloma,
Yes.
trustee Phytros,
Yes.
trustee Malul,
Yes.
trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Schmidt,
Yes.
trustee Velez,
Yes.
trustee Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, and the resolution passes. And then we'd like to read new business into the.
Sir. Under new business, resolved that the Ridgefield Park Board of Education has determined that student ID 31001988 shall be removed from the Ridgefield Park District 21 days following the date of the final notice of final ineligibility, unless a timely appeal is filed with the Commissioner of Education due to insufficient evidence to establish that the student presently is domiciled in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the board secretary is authorized to prepare, with the assistance of the board attorneys, the necessary notice of final ineligibility to inform the parent/guardian of student ID 31001988 of the board's decision.
Thank you. Could I have someone, Trustee Orth, can you please move new business?
I so move new business.
Can I have someone second it?
Second.
May I please have a roll call?
Trustee Coloma,
Yes.
trustee Phytros,
Yes.
trustee Malul,
Yes.
trustee Rodriguez,
Yes.
trustee Schmidt,
I'm an abstention.
trustee Velez,
Yes.
trustee Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, and the resolution passes. We'll now listen to citizens' comments off agenda. Do we have anyone to elevate? Can you see how many we have? 15? No. Okay, we invite the public to email us or to come to the April 29th meeting where you will have ample time to give us feedback and comments. With that, I will close citizens' comments off agenda. And I would request a motion to close the meeting.
Before we do that, can I just say one thing?
Oh. Yes, Mr. Malou.
Unfortunately, I couldn't be in Richfield Park tonight. I'm out in Missouri for a pretty large criminal investigation. But while I am here, the news story of the evening is about a school district in Missouri where the superintendent of schools paid for their daughter's wedding using the district funds. So we don't have it so bad after all.
I think that's a fine point to close. Would you like to make the motion to close the meeting as well?
Sure, I would. I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting, and Nick, happy Independence Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second? Second?
Second.
Kyle, second?
Voice call, all in favor?
All in favor, aye.
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 Oh, my Lord.
Man, I'm gonna sleep. I didn't even.